Hey guys, what's happening? Long time no speak. It's Spencer Kobren live from Los Angeles doing The Bald Show. And I'm back. I'm back after I don't know, how long have I been off the air? 90 days? Something like that? I think I've done one live broadcast in the last 3 months. It's really great to be here, making some changes to the broadcast as you're going to see. Let me give out the phone number. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. And I got to tell you guys that it's good to be back. It's good to be back in this studio. It's good to be back behind the mic. And I want to thank all of you who have took the time over the last couple of months to write me and to try to, keep some form of communications with me. I mean, at least, the normal emails I really appreciate. You guys are great. You made me feel extremely missed. And it was nice to hear from, I must have gotten, no exaggeration, 3,500 emails in the last, personal emails sent through the Bald Truth to me personally, asking about how I was doing, asking about my family, asking about my situation, of course, asking about the broadcast and saying that they just, wish me the best. And I want to thank all of you guys who took the time to do that. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. If you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am or why I'm here, this is the Hair Loss Show. And as insane as that sounds, I've been doing this broadcast for about 15 years. 2/3 of guys by the age of 35 suffer with some degree of hair loss. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. So it is a silent epidemic of biblical proportions that affects just about every household in this nation. I was on the phone today with actually two reporters from two different newspapers, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And they were talking about, one in particular wanted to talk about some of the more recent trends in surgical hair restoration. And the one thing I wanted to make sure that this person knew was that there is so much bullshit being promoted out there, and that the media, unfortunately, is helping to promote the bullshit. The way the industry is being driven in a sense in two ways. It's being driven to some degree, to a pretty big degree, by the online consumer. And it's also being driven by marketing people. That's it. So certain techniques that are being performed or being marketed to be performed as though they are new or innovative, a lot of these procedures have been around forever. And I explained to this one person, who I'm hoping is going to change directions of her particular story, that there's so much bullshit being sold in this industry. And that, some of the recent articles that I've read that I have not been a part of were just, it's mind-boggling that the media just doesn't do their due diligence and puts you, the consumer, the hair loss sufferer, in harm's way. Now, you guys really aren't in harm's way because you're listening to the broadcast. You're part of this show. You're on the message forums. You're doing your due diligence. But what about the thousands of people waking up every day realizing for the first time that they're losing their hair and they don't know about the show yet? Someone's texting me. What about them? Triple 888-659-3727. You know what? I'm going to go right to the phones tonight. See what's going on with you guys. I've missed all of you. And again, I want to thank you guys, especially the guys who are very kind over the last few months. There's some real assholes, real effing jerks, who really only cared about the broadcast, who basically said, I remember there was one email, if you're going to stop doing the show, go F off, but at least let us know. Unbelievable. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Dave Artista. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Dave, what's happening, man? Hey, first of all, Dave, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, good. Perfect. And Andrew, do me a favor, just let me know that the sound is okay with Dave, because everything is, I haven't worked this equipment in a while. So, Dave, man, listen, you are one of the guys that really took the time to see how I was doing, to, check in occasionally, let me know what was going on in your life. Thanks, man. And I just want to thank you for that, because there's a lot of real assholes out there that really, they think I'm some sort of a machine.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm here for them. That's it. I am here just to effing work and to get them the information they need, to give them their bald truth fix.
Welcome to America.
So what's happening with you, man? I know, a lot of good things are happening, I know, in your life.
Yes. Well, first of all, we could talk about Dr. Wesley and his update. Has he contacted you?
He actually did. He contacted me to basically give me his condolences for my dad's passing. I hate using the passing. He died. My dad died. He's dead. That's how it works. You're always
let him know.
Would you say that again?
When he and I started our update, when he got me on Skype to update me on the 13th of February, I had asked him if he had known about the passing of your dad,
right?
And he didn't know, and he said he'd call you right away.
No, he was great. Everyone was really, really very interested. They were just, most of the guys in the industry were terrific. So I want to thank you for that. So go ahead. So tell me what's going on.
Well, you know what? I wrote things down, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to read off of what I wrote.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Here it is. On February 13th of this year, Dr. Wesley had updated me on how things had been going. In January, Dr. Wesley and his crew out in Utah had tested their newest endoscopic prototype. He had said that things had been working out just beautifully. Dr. Wesley is very excited over the progress he has made in the development phase of his newer instrumentation. He also defined that the testing back in January of the new prototypes mentioned is thrilling in his words. But there is just one more refinement needed on a couple of different minor things. How am I doing so far?
You're doing great.
Okay. So he will be going back out to Utah at the end of this month, March, one last time. At that point, they will conduct one more refinement phase just to make sure everything works perfectly. A few weeks ago, he had already filed for FDA clearance for Class 1 devices. So he probably already received that clearance by now, based on the information he told me about.
Now, first of all, I'm going to interrupt you. You are one of the biggest proponents because of this technique, because of you've been privy to some inside information, and I have been criticized in the past, and I continue to be criticized about putting information out there about newer techniques that people may be interested in. And techniques that, in some cases that I believe might be game changers. But the truth is, I think what Dr. Wesley is working on, and I'm going to give you the floor in a second again, can possibly be groundbreaking in many senses. But I think the most important thing is if he's actually able to pull off a truly scarless hair transplant, meaning that there's no visible scars on the outside of the body. It gives people a lot more options as far as, guys who are a little younger might be able to start down the road of surgical hair restoration and kind of give it a try, see if they're interested.
Exactly.
And they're still going to have the opportunity to shave their heads sometime down the line. If guys decided, and if they were well informed, and they were told, listen, we can give you a lot more hair with this procedure, but we're going to have to go outside the normal, safe donor area. But there is a possibility that you will lose that hair as you get older. There are some guys who may make that choice to live a younger, their younger years with more hair and not be as concerned about having that hair miniaturized, because there's still going to be no visible scarring in the back. So they're still going to have the option later on in life to possibly shave their head if they choose to.
True.
So that alone, forget about all of the talk about possible regeneration, which, we don't even know about yet.
No.
That alone is groundbreaking. And for those of you out there who don't think that it's groundbreaking, in my view, you're out of your minds.
Right. You're talking about a new form of FUE that may surpass an FUT, right?
Well,
you're talking about much more volume.
It can surpass an FUT as far as it's not going to be, a blinded FUE procedure. It may be possible to move more hair without causing a linear scar. Now, the problem is you still will never be able to move as much DHT-resistant hair with any type of FUE, in my view, as you can with at least having one strip. But, like I said, for guys who are younger, for guys who are willing to kind of like, okay, I can deal with, if I can get another 10 years of a full-looking head of hair and know that I can possibly lose some of this down the line, but at least I won't have any scars in the back of any kind, then I think it could be a tremendous option for those who are fully informed.
Yeah, right. Have you
go ahead.
You have yet to be updated by Dr. Wesley, right?
I have not spoken to him about any of the recent updates. I haven't spoken to anybody really. I just got back to work yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I suggest that you contact him and see for yourself the same thing that I was updated on the 13th.
I will. Is there anything that you can talk about?
I hesitate.
Okay, I hear you.
Really hesitate. But the grafts that he is able to remove with an endoscope, the way he does it, it's amazing. It's really, really something else. His small trials will begin in April or May of this year, or at the latest June. Right. Which I will be a part of, as you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think it's great that you're willing to take the time to go online, update these guys. You're very realistic about, your approach to moving forward with this. And, you've been very good with kind of preserving the integrity of your relationship with Dr. Wesley by not divulging too much information. And it's interesting in my view, for a physician to really trust anyone, especially just a layman, who does spend time online, who does communicate with other people on message forums, who's not really part of the industry at all. So you certainly impressed the guy, and I could appreciate that.
Yeah, I just can't wait for you to be updated on Skype with Dr. Wesley. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll share it with you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I've just not been able to really spend a lot of time communicating with any of these guys. I was actually there's something exciting coming down the pike that actually was presented last month that has to do with the one of the automated hair transplant devices. The reason I say it's exciting, it's because it could basically make surgical hair restoration a little less operator dependent, let's put it that way, while still providing tremendous results. What that means is, I think in time, depending on, and I don't want to say it's going to be completely automated, but in time, if this proves to work the way that it looks like it is, hair transplantation in general, the price could go down. It could be made available to many more people, and it could be done by a lot of different types of physicians who might not have, and this is kind of controversial to say, but might not have the chops that they need to have right now to really perform state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration. So
it also sounds logical. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it could be exciting. So anyway, I in communication with someone who's who conducted a study with this. I'm going to be speaking to them this week about it. So we're going to bring a lot of good new information to the table. But you also have some other personal information. You know, you're a guy that kind of jumped on the Propecia bandwagon later on in life.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And you had, you know, and why don't you tell your story, because you really had the same fears that all these young guys have today. And I'm not saying that these fears aren't warranted. I personally believe that they're overblown. You know, in general, I certainly believe that there's a subset of guys out there who are truly suffering with these long-term, and in some cases extremely long-term, adverse sexual side effects even after they stop using the drug. But we just don't know clinically what percentage of guys this really affects. But we do know that there are millions of guys who have used Finasteride in their lives, whether it's for benign prostate hyperplasia or for hair loss, who have not suffered any of these adverse side effects. And you're one of them.
And my doctor, my family doctor, he's the one that, unbeknownst to me, of course, he had prescribed it to many of his patients. And let me see if I can, you know, all of his patients that he's prescribed this to has experienced some type of results from it. Some of them very minor, and some of them very major, and of course a lot in between.
Right.
But none of them had experienced any really bad side effects, aside from the lessening of the ejaculant.
Right.
But that's about it.
But again, to me, I never saw that as a really, I mean, obviously you know that it's doing something to your body if you have a thinner ejaculant or less ejaculant. There's definitely something happening hormonally. But if that's the worst case scenario, if that's the worst side effect, and some people freak out over that and think they're going to, you know, eventually get a whole host of side effects, you know, then that's not so bad. It's not like you're out there doing porn. You don't have to shoot ropes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I've tried to tell people on the forum, just take it as if like you would take a multivitamin. Take it and forget it. Don't worry about it. Your body's going to tell you if something's wrong. Yeah,
but that's really hard. Listen, you're an older guy. We're around the same age. You're a couple of years older than I am. We kind of come from a different mindset. You know, I'm not saying this is necessarily good or bad, but, you know, we have learned to kind of take what's being written on the internet with a grain of salt, as opposed to these guys who were raised online, who really get most of their have always gotten most of their information online, and many of these kids see what's written online by completely anonymous guys as the gospel, because that's just the way that people interact now. This is the way that we garner our information. This is the way that we learn about everything. But it wasn't the way that we did. You know, we had to trust the clinical trials, and we had to, you know, do our due diligence by either going to a medical library or picking up books, or, you know, going to speak directly with our physicians, as opposed to reading anecdotal reports that could be written by anybody from anywhere.
Yeah.
And who knows what their motives are. So that's what's scary about the world today. Every contemporary that I know, every guy, first of all, I saw a lot of friends when I was back in New York. Every single one of my peers, every kid that I grew up with except for one, is currently taking Propecia or Proscar. And not one of them has had any adverse side effects. Now, I do believe that if there would have been a higher percentage of guys who had these side effects that I know, if they decided to go online and do their research the way some of these younger guys are doing and read all the horror stories, I am convinced that more of these guys would have had side effects. But no one in my life, very few people over the years who have contacted me after starting using Finasteride, including yourself, have complained of the adverse side effects. So I just think it's important that people know that. And this is not to negate the fact that it's real. These side effects do occur.
Yeah, but a very small percentage of people.
You know, I think, you know, it's interesting because you see all these guys, and, you know, there are people out there that hate me talking about this. They're going to write me. They're going to call me. They may be calling tonight. And they're going to say, how can you dismiss all these guys who are suffering. I am not dismissing these guys. I believe I believe that's happening to them. But I also know that, birth control pills, oral contraceptives are being prescribed like candy with a host of side effects. I mean, women are dying from, blood clots. They're getting, all kinds of adverse sexual side effects, and in some cases, permanent sexual side effects. They're dealing with all kinds of different issues. And in a much larger percentage of women who take oral contraceptives, birth control pills, suffer from some severe adverse side effects than with finasteride. How come they're not out there trying to stop the birth control pill?
That's a great comparative. Great comparative.
Well, because basically, but women are changing their hormones from a young age, from the age of 16, 17 years old, even younger. And now, our country, with new healthcare plans, with Obamacare, it's like a right for women to take birth control, which I'm not saying there's anything against that. I have nothing against that. But the truth of the matter is, this is a drug that has allegedly harmed thousands of women. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
You never hear anybody talk about it. You never hear anybody talk about it, though.
Well, you do, but not in our circles. But you don't hear the guys. But it's still not. There are some now. There's some commercials for lawsuits concerning certain birth control pills. But these type of side effects, including death, higher risk of heart attacks, higher risk of certain types of cancers, greater risk of sexual dysfunction, permanent sexual dysfunction. That's been known for years.
Yeah,
4 years. But taking away the woman's right to choose would be politically incorrect. You can't do that, and I understand that.
That's true.
But we as guys, there are people out there that want to take away our right to choose to have to keep our hair. They want to label this medication as poison, when in fact it has one of the safest safety profiles out of any drug in the PDR. So that's what's crazy to me. And again, that's not to negate the fact that people are being harmed. Go ahead.
Right. My personal experience is, I've been on finasteride. By the way, I go with the generic finasteride.
Yeah.
And I've been on it for over 8 months now, and I've experienced no side effects. And my hair, I compared my imagery to pictures taken of me back in 2010, and it's looking about the same now.
Listen, it's a great feeling, and just by me talking about this, by me having someone on the air like yourself who's had a positive experience, I have gotten death threats about promoting Propecia. Yeah, I have. And it's insane. I make no money, no income for talking about my experience using finasteride or allowing the conversation to happen on this broadcast. They are not sponsors of the Merck. Does not sponsor this broadcast. So when I get death threats because I'm just talking about my opinion and giving my experience, it's insane. It's insanity. It's insanity to me.
That doesn't make any sense.
Dude, listen, the online world doesn't make any sense. What happens, I mean, when I think about some of the stuff that I have been made privy to, or been forced to be a part of, or have been forced to be put involved in, as far as my name and people just creating like just the biggest bunch of bullshit, not just about me, but about other people in the field. You just kind of see how it's one thing to be passionate about something, is another thing to be completely psychotic about it.
Right.
And it's a really scary world out there. And you can see what happens and how people react or overreact or react inappropriately online just through the message forums.
Oh, yeah, it gets pretty crazy on there.
It certainly does, man. It certainly does. But listen, man, I appreciate the call. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad that you're having success with Propecia. I know it was difficult for you to kind of jump on that wagon and get started, and you struggled with it for a long time, and you made that struggle public by writing about your concerns and kind of getting information through the message forums and, basically chronicling your journey, which I think is very powerful for people, and I think it's really important that you're doing that.
Well, I do that to try and help others. Hopefully that'll help some, especially the young guys out there. And thanks to guys like you, Spencer, Joe Tronick, Specs, Dr. Wesley, my good friend Bobman, and my doctor, you all advised me to give it a shot when I didn't think it was going to do anything. Lo and behold, it is doing something amazing.
Yeah, well,
now I'm not saying I'm getting a full head of hair, but it's showing improvement. It's doing something.
Well, I think the fact that you're able to just simply stop the progression and see some reversal of miniaturization is amazing. It's a godsend. It's a miracle. And that's what a lot of these young guys don't understand. They will waste their time, hours, days, months, and years arguing online about these fringe treatments that really are not proven to work at all. And frankly, it could be dangerous. But they won't pop this pill. To me, if you're and I don't mean to cut you off. To me, if you're not willing to try a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, all you have is minoxidil, you have finasteride, you have dutasteride. That's really it. If you're not willing to use these medications, then just kind of close the door, move on with your life, close that chapter. Because at this point, you're really not going to be able to stop your hair loss with anything else out there. I am sorry. I'm sorry for all you RRU fans and for all these guys who are using all these concoctions. In the end, if you follow their progress, for those who have been online for a long time and have watched people using all of these, off-label or gray market concoctions, in the end, these guys usually end up losing the battle. And it's a tremendous waste of energy, time, and money. Yeah.
It's all a matter of acceptance, right?
Listen, if you can't deal with possible consequences of taking, a drug that works, and I understand why people are afraid to use it. And frankly, if I was starting to lose my hair today, I would be terrified to try finasteride or Propecia. Terrified. Now, knowing my personality, I probably would do it, but absolutely terrified compared to when I started. And believe me, one doctor in particular tried to scare the shit out of me before I started using it, and he did a good job. It kind of held me back for a year, and I lost some ground. Really? Yeah.
How did he go about scaring you?
Well, this guy was selling his own concoction of minoxidil and retin-A. His name is Dr. Adam Lewinberg. He's still in business. And I was using his product. I lived in New York at the time, and I would go down to, I think he was on 71st Street at the time, and 2nd Avenue, go to his office. He was constantly telling me how great I was doing. And I brought him this article, and I said, listen, I'm interested in trying this. And he just said, this is going to have feminizing effects. You're going to grow breasts. You're not going to be able to have children. It's very dangerous. I came back 2 weeks later to get another refill of my medication from him that he sold actually at the time in minoxidil bottles before he even had his own label. And he had all of this anti-finasteride propaganda on his waiting room tables, because he figured if I read about this, other people are going to read about this, and this is what I'm gathering. So he really scared me, and I chose not to use it. He kept convincing me that this minoxidil formulation was working, and I really didn't see it, but he said it was. And finally, I just got so desperate, I found a doctor who was willing to prescribe it. And the article that I brought him was an article that was written, I think, in '93 in the New York Times about Proscar having this, interesting side effect of growing hair on guys who were using it for enlarged prostates. And that's the article that I brought this guy. And I mean, he went off to the races. He kind of knew that other people would start asking him. But anyway, listen, I can't blame him. You know, he had to protect his business, and maybe he believed as a physician that this was going to somehow harm me. Personally, I don't believe that's the case, but that's possible. But I did waste a year of my life, and I think I was very lucky to get the results that I did because I grew back a lot of hair that I lost that year. But not everyone is as lucky.
The fact is,
go ahead.
You started taking it when? What year?
Started taking it in 1994.
So around the mid-'90s, up until now, and you still have yet to experience any bad side effects.
Hold on. Apparently my sound is off, so let me see what's going on.
Oops. Oh, no.
Hold on. Is it still off? On and off. On and off. I don't know what's going on, man. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Okay. No, there's no adverse side effects that I'm aware of. At least no adverse sexual side effects that I'm aware of.
You would definitely know about that if it happened.
I mean,
hey, everybody's asking about Joe. Everybody's worried about Joe.
I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on with Joe. I mean, he communicated with me briefly about a month ago.
I heard from him 2 days ago, and that was it. We email each other, and I haven't heard from him since 2 days ago. Now.
Well, you know what? I'm going to put you on hold, and this may be Joe. So hold on for a sec.
Let's hope so.
All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, this is Tim from Boston.
Tim from Boston, man. What can I do for you?
Hey, I actually called the show. I haven't really been following the show for a while. I've been on Propecia now for Finasteride Proscar for, I think this is the 15th month. I called back in November of last year, or of 2012, I should say.
Okay. Well, so tell you know what? Hold on for 1 second. Apparently, we're having some problems with our sound, and let me just put you on hold, and I'll take your call in 1 second. All right, dude?
Okay.
All right. I appreciate it. Sorry about that.
That's
888-659-3727. It keeps cutting out when you go out break. Just tighten up all the wires. Okay. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to see if I can fix whatever issues we're having with the sound. So stay on hold, guys. And I'm sorry I had to cut you off, too, but stay on hold. I'll be back in like 3 minutes. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Give us a call here at The Bald Truth if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. I'll be right back after this.
He's an international best-selling author, a contributing editor for Consumer Digest magazine, and the host of the longest-running reality radio show for men. I'd say he's the man.
The truth shall set you free!
It's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
All right, guys, thanks for your patience. 888-659-3727. I don't know what's going on with the sound. I mean, from my end, it seems to be working just fine. I'm going to continue to do the broadcast. If you guys have problems hearing me live, I apologize. But you'll be able to get the recorded version of the broadcast or the archive version in a day or two. So 888-659-3727. Let me get back to this call. Dude, I'm really sorry. What was your name again? Did you say it was John?
Tim.
Tim. You know, I'm really bad at that. All right, Tim. So you've been on Propecia for about a year, you said?
A little over a year. I called right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving of November 2012 when I just started losing my hair. I was 24.
Okay.
Now I've been on it a year and about a year and a half. And I'm 25 now.
And how you doing on it?
Good. I don't have side effects or anything like that. I think it's pretty much stopped my hair loss for the most part. There is some thinning in my left temple. It seems to, sort of have those days where, I'm looking at it too often and determining whether it's getting worse or not, and I can't really tell. But.
Yeah, you know what happens, and you know this. I mean, I don't have to tell you. We get hyper-focused, and then all of a sudden we think something may be happening when it really isn't. Right. I have OCD, so I know all about it. There are times when I look at certain aspects of myself, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? That I have that spot on my forehead, whatever it is, and then I'll go back and spend like an hour scrolling through old pictures in my phone or whatever, just to find that dot to make sure that it was there. So
yeah, I'm sort of the same way, especially with my hair. But
and listen, it's not healthy, but it is what it is. I admit that this is something that I deal with, and it's probably because of my OCD that I started so early, and I intervened with my hair loss, and was able to have success with early intervention, because I think if I wasn't quite as obsessive, I might have let it go for a while. So I'm not saying it's a great thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It just is who I am. And I think there are a lot more people out there like me, and you just said that you're the same way.
Oh, exactly the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, so how do you know that the hair loss slowed down? Were you shedding a lot?
No, I had surgery. So I think, when I really, really think about it, I think I noticed something was up when I was 23. Probably even before that. I still had the straight hairline, and I still do to some degree.
Yeah.
But I still have a really straight hairline, and I went and I got a haircut for actually a job I was doing, or a job I was about to do. I just graduated college, and I just noticed that it was like, it looked almost like a mature hair, what people would call a mature hairline, which I didn't really know was at the time.
Right.
It was just sort of bizarre. Like, I used to have like this, like really straight juvenile hairline, and I didn't really have that.
I know, dude. I know that feeling, and it's like it could be gut wrenching. I mean, when you first notice, you're like, wait a second, what is that? What's going on? And again, I was the type of guy I look back at it, and back then when I had to look back at my old pictures, I mean, I really had to go through like a photo album. You didn't have digital images, so it's a lot easier for you to obsess than it was for me. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I didn't really think much of it at the time, because I was convinced that there was no way I could go bald. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and my brothers are all I have 3 brothers, all in their 40s, who have juvenile hairlines, as well as my father.
Oh, wow.
And his father, for that matter, and my mother's father.
Wow.
So my mother's brothers are bald. So
that's it, man. That's where you got it.
Yeah. So, which sucks, but
lucky
it's
you.
The way it is.
Yeah, it is. What it is. It does suck.
So, I didn't really think about it for a while, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and this was like in the spring that I guess I really, really noticed the change. I guess looking back, I saw miniaturization there when I was about 20, 21, but nothing had fallen out.
Right.
But the actual loss started at about 23, 24. And then when I turned 24, I had major back surgery. And
what happened to your back?
I had scoliosis, and they fused the spine.
Wow, yeah.
And so, and I had that done in September, and then I was in a shop. I live in Boston, so it was like a little New England shop, and they had these mirrors on the wall, and I combed my hair back the way I normally do it, and there was what I would consider deep recession. My mother thinks I'm crazy, but there was a definite hair loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And a lot of times your moms are in denial. They first of all, they don't want you to be hurt by this, and they're hoping that it's not really happening. And unless they've seen a lot of hair loss around them, then they're not really kind of privy to how the process starts. But you said that your mother's brothers were bald. Is that it?
Yeah. So I think part of the reason why she doesn't think that I'm balding is because her oldest brother, he's the oldest of the 2. My uncle Neil, her younger brother, he started balding very slowly, in his 20s, and then he's not even really fully bald even today. He's very thin in the front. He's probably what's considered like a Norwood 4 actually, but his whole crown is filled in. But he's very thin in the front. And
right.
But her brother Charlie started balding very young, like 18, and was pretty much completely bald by. I saw pictures of the year I was born, so he would have been in his early 30s. And by then, he was pretty much gone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, it's there, man. But the good news is that you got yourself on finasteride, and that you're seeing positive results. Now, so were you going through like a significant shed, or was it a relatively slow process?
Yeah, I didn't have shedding like with the hair. I didn't notice hair in the shower. I didn't notice anything like that. It literally was like the hair evaporated off my scalp. That's what I would compare it to. It was like where did it go? You know. It's unbelievable. But, I've been looking in the mirror lately, and I've seen one side of my hairline, actually, and I've shaved my head before. I've gone, like, all the way down to a 0 with a razor.
Well, how do you like the way you look with it? Shaved.
I don't look too good. I'm a skinny guy. Really,
Yeah.
I'm about 6 foot, and I weigh about 140 pounds. So I'm a small guy. Yeah.
So, and how old are you, 25?
Yeah, I'm 25.
Yeah. Well, why don't you get into the gym a little bit?
I do. That's the thing. That's the other thing I got from my mother is just this sort of like wiry, very sort of European. My mother's family's from Ireland.
Right.
So I don't look, I just don't look the same as a lot of my friends do.
Well, let me tell you though, that will change to some degree. You're only 25 years old. Sometimes it doesn't hit to your 28, 29, 30. But I know a lot of guys who are, I guess they're, what are they, endomorphs?
Yeah.
Ectomorph. Yeah. And and all of a sudden their body just changes with they just begin to mature. So,
and I'm trying to hit the gym because I guess if it happened, I would just do it. If it got to a point where it's like this looks terrible, I would just do it.
I would say just be prepared for it. Hit the gym. Continue to work on your life and developing your life. And just prepare for it. Just say, listen, this is a possibility. But enjoy the hair that you have on your head now, because a lot of guys aren't even lucky enough to do what you're doing. They either chose not to use finasteride, or they weren't good responders.
Right. And the thing that I did, so when I hit the year mark on the drug, I went and I saw a hair transplant surgeon here in Boston. Just to keep track of the hair loss.
Right.
I wanted my father's a dermatologist, but I wanted somebody else to keep an eye on it because I wanted to have sort of an unbiased opinion.
I think that's actually it's a good idea. And you want someone to really a professional who understands hair loss to really assess your situation, but to also help you keep track of what's going on. I think that's great. Most guys don't do that.
Yeah, and but I think the thing that the guy I saw, I was sort of disappointed by, not because I don't really know whether he's a good hair transplant surgeon or not, or he's a pretty popular hair transplant surgeon in the Boston area.
Okay. If you want to mention his name, you can, or you don't have to. It's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with.
I probably shouldn't. He's done some pretty famous athletes. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
On the Patriots.
Okay. All right. So, and again, you can mention his name. It's fine with me. If you had a bad experience with anybody, you should feel free to just put it out there. Now, you didn't have a transplant though.
No. No, he actually turned me, he didn't try to do that, but he tried to sell me this laser cap, right from the moment I walked in, which really put me off, because it wasn't really like...
Yeah. I know.
You know what I mean? It was sort of...
Listen,
sort of like
I have, and I'm going to finish your thought, and then I'll tell you what I think about it.
Well, that's the thing, is like, because my mother and father are in medicine, it's like... they're pretty like, if it's not a drug that's been on the market and FDA approved for many years, it's probably horseshit.
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. There are some doctors who I recommend as great hair transplant surgeons who, at least from what they tell me, they firmly believe that low-level laser light therapy can be helpful and it works, and they feel comfortable selling it in their practice. Mm-hmm. I tell everyone that I have never seen anyone who has gotten what I would consider to be reasonable results from low-level laser light therapy. I personally can't really wrap my head around how it works, but maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. And we can't recommend it through the American Hair Loss Association. However, whoever's selling this to you or trying to sell this to you, if they're good, if they're a great hair transplant surgeon, frankly, that's what I care about. If I'm going to be, recommending anybody or saying, hey, you know what, this guy's been doing this for a long time, he has consistent results, I'm not quite as concerned about, somebody buying low-level laser light therapy that's not going to harm them, because I'd rather get people into a safe place as far as surgery is concerned and make sure that, we could help them navigate through something that could really disfigure them. However, when people ask me about low-level laser light therapy, I don't care who is selling it. I don't care if these doctors are attached to me in any way, shape, or form. I just don't believe in it. Mm. So I think your instinct was correct.
Yeah, and I sort of the big reason why when I got there that I was so sort of irritated by the whole thing was that I had. From the moment I walked in, it was sort of, I kind of had gone through what my scenario was and what my case was with somebody else that wasn't the doctor. And then I spoke with the doctor about 5 minutes after I had discussed my situation with, I guess it must have been a nurse or something in the office. And he was just like right on this laser cap. It didn't really have anything to do with my family history of hair loss. What I should expect.
Well, dude, you have to go with your instincts. And if it was a bad experience, and I tell all these docs, the docs that I've worked with for years, I have gotten some complaints about bedside manner. I've gotten some complaints about, guys who believe they're being upsold. And I'm like, listen, that's only going to end up hurting your reputation. That's, it's not a good thing. I understand that you have your kids' private school tuition to pay and your, Mercedes-Benz payments to take care of. But, you don't need to make money off of everyone who walks into your office. Sometimes by just providing some good counsel and good advice and turning them away, that's going to get, that's going to really go far as far as your reputation is concerned, especially online. Because people do Yelp today. People do go on, Ball Truth Talk and, express their concerns or discuss their experiences. And if you were to go online and talk about a good experience with this particular doctor, it would only give him, thousands of more eyeballs and from guys who are considering having something done. So,
and look, I'm not, I don't mean to say that this guy is a bad hair transplant surgeon, because I have a feeling that he's not.
Right.
In terms of, the procedures he does. At least he's probably one of the better doctors in the New England area.
Right.
That's my guess. But, I just didn't feel, I left it kind of like, I don't know if I ever want to come back here.
Look, dude, I sent, and I'm going to let you go, I have a lot of calls, but I sent a guy, and, I don't know, Andrew, are you on the air, by the way? Are you around? Because if you are, you can turn your mic on. I sent Andrew to a doctor. He actually went to a couple of doctors, but he went to one doctor who he came back and he told me, you know what? He felt very uncomfortable with the upsell. And then once this doctor found out that he was my boy, things kind of changed. So that is a bad move for any of the doctors who are listening to this broadcast, and most of the guys in the industry do, realize that we live in a very, very public society now. And if something turns somebody off, even if you have the best intentions, you can't do the hard sell. You can't go out there and try to sell somebody something that they really, they're not interested in. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm glad that you talked about it.
I just have one quick question, and I think it's a pretty straightforward, easy answer question. But So in a situation where, you know, I do turn to transplant surgery, let's say a couple years down the line or something, am I going to, I know that based on my hair quality, I'm going to get different, I could get a good result or a bad result, but can certain doctors do more with my hair than others?
Well,
or is it pretty much universal about...
I don't think it's universal. It's definitely not one size fits all. And I think that there are doctors and clinics that are used to doing things a certain way who might not have really evolved their practice. They may be doing state-of-the-art hair transplantation, but they may not have the infrastructure or the staff to really do larger sessions. They may, make you go through, more time and in some cases more money if you have to have several sessions as opposed to one, depending on your particular case. They may not. I mean, what kind of hair do you have? What's your hair type?
I have dark hair, very fair skin, and it's very finely textured.
All right, so you are the worst possible hair transplant candidate.
Exactly.
Basically, all you have to tell me is that you have lower than normal density in general, and then you shouldn't even have a transplant. But even if you have good, forget about the hair shaft diameter, even if you have good donor density, with what you're telling me, you have poor hair, you have fine hair, you have a possibility of a lot of contrast between the hair and the scalp. You're going to need much more hair to be moved in order for you to get a really good quality result. One thing that I would recommend in a case like yours, and again, let me preface this by letting you guys know that I'm not a physician, but in a case like yours, you want to be able to get the most coverage, the most bang for your buck, so to speak, as far as the coverage. And I think a clinic that really concentrates on doing the lateral slit technique can kind of create this shingle effect where, the hair, if you're watching me, sometimes if you use a sagittal slit, hair can kind of like look like it's like one in front of the other. But if you're doing a lateral slit, it kind of makes, the hair kind of like splays, it's like staggered. So it kind of has a shingling effect and has more of an appearance of coverage. So for a guy like you, I would say that you should definitely, if you're considering surgery, make sure that your doctor is using the lateral slit technique, and you might get the appearance of more volume and have a better chance of using less hair to get the same type of coverage. And it really just depends on your hair type. But I have to tell you that it sounds like you're doing well on finasteride. You're young. Once you're cut no matter what the procedure is at this stage.
Yeah.
And if you can deal with a shaved head and maybe spend more time working on your physique, and if you think that would help kind of balance your appearance, then, hair transplantation may not be for you. So just really think about it before you decide to go under the knife, all right?
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Listen, thanks for the call, and good luck, and, let us know how you do, and I'm glad that you're doing well on finasteride.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care. 888-659-3727. I'm going to take your calls, but let me say hi to Artista real quick because he's been holding on. Hey, man. Sorry about that.
No, that's quite all right. I was hoping Joe would have answered by now.
I don't know. I mean, I have a full board, so Joe may be on the line. But what I can do is, I
emailed him.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, I could let you go unless you have something you want to add to this last caller's.
I was thinking if you wanted to have a UK bold truth, we could do it right now. Being that there's a London 25 out there, we could talk London.
That'd be a lot of fun, actually. Guys, you can call the UK line if you're in London, which I have no idea what it is right now because I haven't done the UK show in so long. But you can check thebaldtruth.com for that phone number. All right, Artista, listen, man.
Throw me out.
Thanks a lot.
Okay,
I'm glad you're doing well. It's great to hear from you. And again, thank you for all the kind words and, the fact that you checked in on me in the last 3 months. It meant a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we basically experienced the same thing. I told you before, my father passed away in 2008. It's a tough time, but I'm glad you're doing okay. I'm glad you're back, and hello, everybody. Joe, I hope you're out there. And Spencer, contact me later on if you get a hold of Dr. Wesley, okay?
I will, absolutely, man.
Yeah, we should talk about this later.
All right. Take care.
All right, you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. Let's take some phone calls. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this? I'll try one more time. You're on the air. Who's this? All right. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer. My name is Mark. How are you?
Mark, I'm fine. How are you?
Good. We spoke like 7 years ago.
You're kidding
and,
me. Jeez, I've been doing this for a long time, huh?
I know.
That's crazy.
I still wonder why your hair looks too good. I'm trying to figure that out as I'm looking at you on my iPad.
Are you telling me you can't see the paint right here and the paint in the back? Are you kidding me, man?
All right. Well, I'm glad you're giving away your secrets.
Well, listen, I got to be honest. It is what it is. I feel so fortunate that I'm able to do such a great paint job. If you need enough hair to make it work.
So when you're in Macy's or wherever, does anybody look at the top of your head?
People look at me all the time.
Okay.
I'm like a freak. I walk around. Actually, I don't think I've been lucky enough to save so much hair that I'm able to make it look. I think for the most part 100% realistic. I am sure there are times when there's somebody who is looking down at me, on an escalator, saying, "What the F is on his head?" I am sure that
do not ride in escalators.
Yeah,
that's I guess that's rule number one.
But the thing is, and you're right. I think for most people that would be the case. But I tell the world I paint my head. What am I going to
do? well, good for you. It's working.
Thank you, man. So what's up?
Anyway, so I am an ecstatic, up until very recently, hair transplant patient. So I went to Hassan and Wang and had a great result. And about 6 months ago, I made a genius decision to stop taking Propecia.
Oh man! Why? I mean, first of all, were you having side effects, or did you stop it because you had fear of long-term side effects?
No, I said, what the hell am I taking a drug? My hair looks great. I'm economizing. I'm making my own coffee. I'm not going to Starbucks.
Jesus, but that's like the number one rule. If you're on the drug and you had a hair transplant, you can't get off the drug.
Yeah. Well, I actually did ask somebody, one or two people, and I took the advice I wanted to take. It was not a good decision. So I regret it, and so now I'm at the point where I'm noticing a difference, a real difference, and I'm starting to become obsessed again.
So you've been off it for 6 months. Have you gotten back on it?
I got back on it about a couple of months ago. I'm back on.
Okay.
I'm back on.
You're back on, and you notice, are you still going through an active shed, or have things slowed down?
Well, I check every 10 minutes, and I'm not kidding.
I know you're not kidding, dude. I have OCD.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. My mind plays tricks on me. So the answer really is that I don't know. But what I wanted to ask you was, providing that I stopped, this thing, I noticed it in like one day. I think I got a haircut.
Yeah.
I got a haircut, and all of a sudden I'm going past glass doors and mirrors, and I'm going, holy cow! And I'm touching the top of my head, and I swear, and my wife notices it too. That there's less hair. All right.
When you say you noticed it in one day, you mean you noticed it one day after you stopped taking the drug, or you noticed it one day all of a sudden?
No, one day, like 5 months or 6 months after stopping it. All of a sudden,
that's the way it works.
Just like what the hell? So I guess my question to you is, I am back on it. Is there a way you think that this could be reversed by going back? Can I go back to where I was?
Well, and that's a good question. Here's the good news. We know clinically that Finasteride seems to work as far as reversing the miniaturization process in hair that has been lost or miniaturized within a 5-year period. So now you saved your hair for a long period of time. It was going through, cycling fully and going to, growing in full anagen phase, and you had, full hair shaft diameter for a long time. That hair that you lost, that fell out, that miniaturized so quickly, that's not atypical when you stop using finasteride. And it's also not atypical for that hair to grow back if a patient goes back on it. So to answer your question more clearly or more definitively, the answer is yes, you can recover that hair, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. But you are within the window of recovery. So, I think that if you're positive about things, you're obviously not having any adverse side effects. Things, it seems like things have slowed down again as far as, or maybe you can't tell, but, you'll start to notice things getting a little better, hopefully, if you respond well, if you continue to respond well, in the next couple of months. And then, my advice is to talk to your doctor about this first, but never get off that drug again unless your doctor tells you that you should for some reason.
Right. No, that's really good advice.
But I do believe, to try to relay your fears, I do believe that you can recoup that. It's a pain in the ass that you have to deal with this emotionally. But I actually believe, and I've seen this before, and we have thousands of people have contacted me over the years who've experienced similar things. Well, I wouldn't say thousands that have actually stopped, but there are quite a few who have stopped for whatever reason and then jumped back on, and they've made their gains back, or they regain their loss. So just try to chill, try to forget about it, and just be thankful that you got back on the drug. And also be thankful that you noticed it. That maybe if you didn't get that haircut that month, maybe you would have waited another month or two before you noticed it.
What a difference, having like that fullness to not having that fullness. It was really,
well, listen, I'll tell you on a personal note, I've been through a tremendous amount of, stress these last few months.
I'm so sorry, by the way. I've been following you on Facebook, and I'm so sorry.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. It's everyone's been extremely kind, and it went beyond just the loss of my father. It was everything that led up to it, and the tremendous, just dealing with caring for him and stuff like that. So it's been kind of tough. I did notice that I had a little bit more shedding than normal over the past few weeks. Could be stress related, could be, benzodiazepam related, because I took a little bit of some benzos for a short period of time when I was going through the most stress. But the point is, I understand, doesn't matter how long and how old you are. I don't know if I'm older than you, but I probably am. It affects your life. Especially if you've been lucky enough to save your hair for so long. As soon as you think things are slipping again, you start to kind of go right back into that, that panic mode.
Right.
And I don't care. You see, all these young guys are like, you know what? When I'm 45, I'm not going to give a shit. That's not true.
No.
That is not true. Even if you're 55 or 60, look at Artista. I mean, he's like 50, I think, and he just started using finasteride. And he's getting involved in these clinical trials. He's still obsessed with it. It doesn't change. Sure. If it's something that bugs you, it doesn't change. But listen, man, I'm glad you had a good hair transplant experience with Hassan Wong. I'm glad you're back on finasteride, and kind of, contact us in a couple of months and let me know how you're doing.
I will.
All right, man.
I will. It's okay. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, you got it. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, what's up, Spencer? It's Coco.
Coco, man, what's happening?
Nothing much, man. I was sitting home watching some wrestling. I actually thought Madman was on tonight, but
oh, I'm sorry to disappoint.
Actually, no, I'm not disappointed. I actually stopped the wrestling and started watching, The Bold Truth, and decided to call.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I really do. So what's up? Anything new? Anything new in your hair life?
You know what? I mean, it's actually kind of funny because I've always said that if I did go bald completely, I would just shave it off, and it's just like I'm just kind of up until I guess 5 years ago, I would always shave my head, and I decided to just grow it out, and then found out I'm losing hair, and it's becoming more and more noticeable. Not so much, me like, holding two mirrors up, to each other to look at it, but
people busting your balls about it.
No, not so much. Like people don't bust my balls much about that, but I do have a white tub, and like I notice it when when I step out of the shower and I look down and I see like little bits here and there, or like even while I was calling on my iPhone, I saw like a hair just like hanging on the screen. I'm just like, it's like it's crazy because like I'm noticing it more and more.
Yeah.
Like noticing it leaving as more so than just noticing.
Well, that's why I have a black tub and black sheets. B, no, but listen, those are the telltale signs that you're dealing with hair loss, and you know it. We've discussed it, but you've also been a guy, like you said, who shaved his head, and you were comfortable with a shaved head. So I mean, you win. You win. That lack of control kind of sucks because you're like, wait a second, now I'm not going to have that choice anymore. But once you can get over the idea of not having that choice, which to me it seems for you at least it's not going to be that big of a deal, then you shave your head, you move on, man. You're just you're the guy who shaves his head.
I mean, like when I was around like 26 years old, I actually took a picture of myself, like tried to do like a cool picture, like I set my camera up, walked away. And took a picture of myself like on top of a roof, and someone pointed out like, "Hey, dude, it looks like you're losing some hair." I was like, "Nah," like it's just my hair is just growing in because I shaved my head and it was growing in. I was like, "No, it's just my hair growing in, and the sun is shining on the back of my head."
Yeah.
Come years later, I decided, all right, let me grow it in, let me see how it looks, and that's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, first thing to know is that the sun, if you're not losing your hair, the sun is not just shining off the back of your head, no matter how short your hair is. It's very unlikely. I mean, even if you have very fine hair and you cut your hair very short, you may see more scalp, but it's going to be in a randomized, unpatterned, way. You're not going to have like a big cowlick or a big bald spot. But everyone thinks that because I was in denial the same way initially. Someone told me that it looks like I was losing a little hair. And the person happened to be my late brother. Thank you, Al. Rest in peace. But, you're kind of in denial. You're like, it's the way that it's combed or whatever it is.
Right, exactly.
If people really want to do something about it, they have to come to terms with it, come to grips with it right away. And then you're going to be able to treat it. If you don't give a shit, then, again, I think the guys that don't care are the real winners. Because I wish to God that I didn't have to deal with having to tell this guy, when he's telling me how good my hair looks, that I paint my head. But I have to be honest with them. But I wish I didn't have to deal with it. I wish I could just wake up in the morning and feel completely comfortable in my own skin with a shaved head and just move on. But, for me, I wasn't equipped to deal with it. So you are the guys who I envy the most.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, and it's like, but another thing is, it's like, up until like recently, like like you said, like when you get to a point where it's like, all right, I may not have the option to just grow my hair out anymore, but like there are a few things that make me feel a little better about it because like I said, like I think I look, I think I look good with a shaved head if it came to that.
You do,
and. Thank you. And another thing that like I kind of feel better about for some reason, like I feel better that my hair is like it's thinning in the back and not like in the front so much.
And that's the thing, and that's what's that's an interesting statement because that is why surgical hair restoration or hair transplantation works, especially if it's done well. Because the whole thing about as far as the way that you appear to the world or the way that you see yourself in the mirror, it's based on the framing of your face. Once you lose that framing and the dimensions change, your looks change. So if you're maintaining that hairline and only losing hair in the back, you really not change. Your look doesn't change that much. Yeah, you're balding, but it doesn't really change the way people see you from the front, and that's the way you see yourself. And that's the way you see yourself in images and on video. So it's a big deal. So that's actually the better way to go bald.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I also feel like it's, it's a lot easier if I really wanted to hide it from the back.
Oh yeah.
Because the only thing is like when I go to get a haircut, obviously my barber knows that that's there, and it's like when he's, I guess trying to like fluff it, sort of to like kind of hide it as much as he can. It's like I'm just like, you know what, like this makes me want to just shave it off now, because like when he has that little brush, like digging in the back of my head while he has like
that's a shitty feeling.
Blow dryer. Yeah, it is. I'm just like, I'm sitting there like I want to scream like a little kid.
I got a haircut today, and I see the guy. He's taking a blow dryer like with a big brush and like kind of combing it over in the back. I'm like, oh, it's so anxiety ridden for me. Still, at the age of 48, I'm almost 49. Mm-hmm. Just getting a haircut, I'm wasted for the day. I'm exhausted, and I'm not even doing anything.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But listen, Coco, man, thank you for calling, man. It's great to be back. And
well, again, my condolences again for you and your loss and your family.
Thank you, man. I'm the only one left in my family, dude. I am the sole survivor.
I'm sorry.
You're even fucking up your condolences.
I know, man. Well, it's not an easy thing to say. You know what I mean? Because I can't imagine, what you're going through. It's like I can only tell you how much I feel for you, how much I care about you, and I listen. I appreciate that, and if I can be honest, my dad is in a better place. He was not happy on this earth at this stage in his life. So he was dealing with a lot of pain and just dementia, and he was just not himself. He was not well. So it was actually a blessing that he died the way that he did, and that we were, that I was in a position to be able to make the right decisions and to get him into the right places and to make sure that he had a really comfortable end of life. So, that's life, man. We're all going to die. He lived he was 90 years old. That's not so bad. That's amazing. You know what I mean? I'm yes, I can't say anything else. I don't know what else to say. So.
All right, man. Listen, I appreciate it.
All right.
Take
you.
Care.
Thanks for talking with me.
All right, you got it. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
888-659-3727. I'm going to take one more call, then I'm going to take a quick break. I will clear the lines after this call, so you guys can try to call in when I'm on break. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, am I on there?
You are on the air, yes.
Oh, hi. This is Andrew from St. Louis. It's been a while since I called in, but...
What's up, Andrew?
Not much. I wanted to call in because I couldn't just, sit here and watch the show and stay on the sidelines while, I didn't tell my story, because it seems that everyone that has a bad story with finasteride and dutasteride has told their story, and it's only right that I tell mine.
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
When I was 17, I started losing, let's say, hundreds of hairs a day. I just combing them in the sink and just nonstop, and I just saw the writing on the wall. My brother was 23. He lost all his hair. He was like a Norwood 4 or 5 at 23.
Yeah, that's heavy.
He told me about. Yeah, it's but he didn't. He's all right with it. He's married and he's doing all right now. But he one day told me when I was 18. He told me, "You know what causes hair loss, right?" I didn't know, and he said he'd been doing research and something called DHT, and they have a drug for it. So. Within a month of him telling me that, I went to my doctor and we had a discussion. He lifted up my hairline and I pointed out the hair loss. He shook his head, yes, and then, and in addition to that, he also pointed out some other hair loss areas I didn't even know existed. And then I saw him, and that just horrified me.
How old are you now?
24.
24. Okay.
Turning 25 in about a month.
Okay. Happy birthday.
So I took it, and then within a month I was really worried because nothing good was happening, and I didn't have any side effects. I was like, is this even real? But I got it from the pharmacy, so I knew it must be.
Right.
I had increased shedding for about the first month, and I freaked out, did some research.
That's pretty common,
Continued on the drug and just trusted in the science, and eventually, within, I'd say 4 months, I could pull on my hair and nothing came out. Instead of hundreds of hairs a day, I could comb my hair and nothing.
That's and that's an amazing feeling, and I had a very similar experience. I didn't go through the initial shed. My shed came probably about 6 months into the drug, and that wasn't no one even knew about that back then. So that freaked me out. I thought it stopped working for me, but I kind of had immediate results within the first couple of months. I saw that the cessation of hair loss and also just some regrowth. But there's when you take something, you're like, holy cow, there's something that actually works. It's the best feeling in the world, man.
It's definitely a secret because I was 18 and, didn't want anyone else to know I was losing my hair because I'm like the only guy. So kind of a little secret, but everyone's wondering how you keep your hair. So
I have a question for you. You're young, and I'll let you finish your story. But you said something interesting at the beginning of your call that everyone is out there talking about their negative experiences with finasteride. You wanted to talk about your positive experiences. Now, all the guys that called the show tonight called to talk about their positive experiences as well. But I find that interesting. I mean, do you think that you are do you think that guys like you are out there just not telling their story? And that there are so many guys like you out there who have had positive experiences, but you're not out there banging your drum on the internet? I
think what it is if you lose your sexual function, you're going to be a lot more outraged than you are going to be happy if you keep some of your hair. Because
that's well said.
Once that happens, those people are going to freak out a lot more than someone like me who kept his hair. I don't even care. I could just never visit another forum, and I got my hair. Let's move on with life. But those people are going to make their voices known, and people like me are just going to go about their life because everything's okay.
Dude, and that's what I believe. But there's guys out there that just don't believe that, and for whatever reason, they just. I don't know. I understand it. Believe me, if that happened to me, if I took a drug and all of a sudden lost my sexual function, it would freak me the F out, and I would do exactly what these guys are doing. So I can't blame them. I really can't.
You'd be headhunting.
That's right, man. I would be. So, I don't understand some of the, at least one person that actually sent me a death threat because I talk about my finasteride experience. But, I certainly understand why these other voices want to be heard. And I think it's important that they are. They do have a platform. They do have a couple of websites, and they have made some real strides as far as getting the word out that this is a possibility. I think that's important as well. But I think it's just as important that guys like you come out and talk about your experience.
I think it's also important from a standpoint of I know I'm going to go bald sometime, but there's a massive, massive difference in my head between going bald when you're 18 and maybe when you're 28. Like, I just want to get a few years with the hair in. And
well, you know what? There is a massive difference. And those are such formative years, and that's why you see the guys who are the most angry. Well, it depends. Some guys get over it early. They've gone through it. They kind of got it out, and they learn how to live life as a bald guy at a young age, and then the rest of their lives are great. But there are those who started to lose their hair at 14, 15, 16, 18, whatever, that really become embittered. And I get it. I really get it. And they weren't able to stop their hair loss, or they decided not to use this drug and take that opportunity to really try to treat their hair loss. And now they're just... they're stuck on the message forums. Now, are you a forum user? Or did you go to Bald Truth Talk?
I visited there several times, and
you're better off not going. I'm telling you.
A lot of the stuff you hear there is just sometimes people that just have a grudge, and they just they're trolling at their computer. So,
dude, you are absolutely right. I think it's insanity. It's I own that forum, and I see what goes on, and I thank God that I don't have to deal with moderating the thing or being involved in it. I think it's important that people have a platform to discuss and to interact and to learn from each other. But there's a lot of hate, and there's a lot of misinformation, and there's just a lot of angry people. And I get it, man. When I started to lose my hair, listen, you started younger than me. I was 21 years old. You were 18. That's 17. That's tough. So right now, what's your hair like?
About 1/4 the way to a Norwood 1. That's with Avodart. Avodart made a big that was a big game changer.
So when you say 1/4 the way to a Norwood 1, you mean that you are between a Norwood 1 and a Norwood 2?
No, I'm like, I've got basically, it's hard to describe, but it's like what I'd call Avodart hair, because you could just tell like all the hair is just like clinging on to life in the temple area.
That's amazing.
Where I never lost it.
That's amazing.
So I mean, basically I have a full head of hair that's just the same as it used to be. It's just, you can tell it's clinging on for life now.
well, listen, Mazel Tov, man. You're 24. I'm sure you're starting to see that your contemporaries are actually losing their hair. Forget about your brother, but I'm sure some of your friends are starting already.
I mean, I think a lot of people, start losing it at 30. So, I mean, I'm still kind of, the numbers are growing, but the number of people that are like me that have just like the terrible genes, I think are like maybe 20%.
Well, it is. It is about 20% before the age of 21. But think about that. 20% of guys start to lose their hair before the age of 21. That's a pretty big percentage. That's not like 2%. That's a significant amount of guys. So basically, 2 out of every 10 will have some degree of hair loss. Now, it may not be appreciable. It may not be something that other people notice, but they're seeing the changes, whether they're starting to see a mature hairline and some general, diffuse thinning in certain areas, maybe in the back, may not be noticeable to you. But then again, if you're losing your hair, probably everyone around you who's losing your hair, you're hyper-focused on. Like, Yeah, Well, listen, Glenn, listen to that. What's your name again?
I'm Andrew.
Andrew, thank you for the call, man. I'm so happy that you're doing well and that you've been able to maintain your hair for this long. And look, the truth is, the numbers don't lie. There's a really good possibility that you're going to make it to your 30s, even though you started so young. That you're going to.
Whatever happened with Allergan?
What do you want to know?
Well, I'm sorry. I've been kind of out of the loop for a while. I heard last May that their test didn't go so well, and they're going to try increasing it tenfold. And
well, it's going to be their bimidapros is going to be just another tool in everyone's arsenal. I think it's going to be, from what I understand, maybe a slightly more effective, type of like minoxidil. It's definitely something that is, for the guys who are so shit scared to use finasteride, it gives them something else to work with. But I don't think it's going to be the end-all, be-all. And again, that's just a feeling that I get. So,
and just one more question.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of these people on the forums, I've heard of several people buying their drugs over the internet, which sounds like the worst thing in the world you could do.
Yeah.
Like if all these people had actually gone to see a doctor and gotten real medication, maybe they wouldn't have gotten those side effects.
Well, I think that's an interesting thought. And I'm sure there are some guys who have actually gotten the side effects from the brand name. But I also have a hunch that you're correct. A lot of guys online, especially the younger guys, will buy the cheapest possible product, buy it online without a prescription. Who knows what they're getting? So that is a possibility. That's something that I think needs to be factored into the general equation, especially for all the guys that are out there who, really believe they've had these side effects or who actually suffered from these side effects. I'm a brand whore. I'm a guy who really, I've been on the brand name Proscar forever. I will not switch to generic, but I also know guys who are in the industry that kind of started with generics or even switched from brand name Propecia to generic finasteride and have done well. But with that said, I've known guys who have made that switch who all of a sudden start to go through a shed and then switch back to brand name. So I'm a big believer in, at the very least, seeing a doctor and getting a prescription and then sticking with what you start with. If you start with generic and you're doing well with it, stay with that particular generic. If you start with brand, stay with that brand.
I have a question. Are you you never tried Avodart? 'Cause, I mean, I've had an extremely amazing story with Avodart, and it seems like you're kind of hesitant on that.
It's not that I'm hesitant. I just feel like I'm maintaining. So I don't. There's a lot of people out there that have hair greed, and I get that. But I'm maintaining. I'm almost 49 years old, dude.
Oh, sorry.
So you're sorry. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. I'm almost 49 years old, and I still have a relatively full-looking head of hair. So I don't want to screw with that. So unless I start to see myself slipping, I'm going to kind of keep that in my toolbox just in case I need it at some point.
Well, the risk ratio, has twice as many side effects. I think it's 4.7 for Avodart and 2% for Propecia.
And honestly, I'm not even that concerned about the side effect of the risk of adverse side effects. My concern is that I'm going to kind of like possibly throw myself into a telogen phase by switching drugs, and that's an emotional roller coaster that I don't want to be on at this point. Just to possibly get a little bit more regrowth in my crown. I'd rather continue to use Derm Match in the crown, and as long as I'm maintaining what I have, I feel pretty confident and comfortable.
Well, I know you have to take your break, so I just wanted to reiterate, I think everyone out there should have a real honest conversation with a licensed doctor about Avodart or Propecia, and don't ever go online to get any of that stuff. You're going to have a bad story to tell.
Andrew, man, I think that's great advice. I'm so happy that you're doing well. And, call us back, man. Keep us abreast of your situation. And if you have any, continue to have any more advice for young guys out there like yourself, just keep it coming because they need to hear it.
Well, minoxidil and Nizoral, that's also good. I get 2% ketoconazole shampoo, and it's amazing for my hair.
Yeah, well,
really good.
This stuff can work. I'm happy for you, dude. Listen, I appreciate the call. I'm going to take a break, all right?
Okay.
All right, take care.
Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks again. 888-659-3727. Wow. Listen, guys, I will take more calls when I come back, but I need to take a break. I need to get my the plug for my computer before it loses power. It's about to lose all juice. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren, and you're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back after this.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent, and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. That kid, Andrew, said he was sorry when I told him I was 49 years old. I'm not 49 yet, Andrew, so don't feel too bad for me. Jesus, youth, it really is wasted on the young, I gotta tell you. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. We have a couple of lines open if you want to call in, if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. This is the Hair Loss Show. If you're new to the broadcast or you're tuning in for the first time, you just tuned into GFQ, or you're listening to the show on iTunes Radio or Stitcher Radio, or you're watching on one of the many live streaming sites that this program is currently streaming on, like Ustream.tv and Justin TV and Vaughn Live. And, of course, how can I forget Daily Motion? We're live on Daily Motion, which is amazing. I know that we're going to be doing some exciting things this year. The entire GFQ network, Guys from Queens Network, is going to be available on a lot of other online resources as well, which of course means that The Bald Truth is going to be out there in a much bigger way. And I'm excited about that. And maybe Andrew can come on, and if he's in his studio right now, I don't know if he's working or not, or if he's somewhere drinking. But maybe he can tell you guys about about that a little bit more. I can't speak tonight. I'm not even drinking. But I like hearing stories, positive stories. Guys who have either decided to take the Propecia plunge or have done well with hair transplants, and talk about what they've been able to accomplish, both physically, aesthetically, and emotionally. I'm going to have to tell these people to stop texting because my phone is blowing up. I'm going to write it right now because it's a real pain in the ass. 888-659-3727. But I like to hear these stories because, there's so much negative crap that you read online. And, this is what happens. The guys that are the most unhappy, the guys that have had the problems, Of course they're going to go online. They're going to go online. They're going to complain because I would do the same thing. I would probably be leading the charge if Finasteride made, my junk stop working. I would probably be leading that charge. That's the type of personality I have, obviously. Look at what I do for a living. I have to throw this fucking phone out of the studio right now. It is driving me out of my effing mind. Andrew, if you're watching the program, please tell people to stop texting. It's driving me insane. Let me take a phone call. Jesus. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer. How's it going? It's Granger.
Granger. What's happening, man? How are you?
Same old shit, man. Same old shit.
Same old shit, man. Well, so tell me your story, Granger. I've seen you in chat forever.
Well, actually, I called. I had a bunch of questions written down. If that's okay. I mean, I think there's some callers. Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wrote down okay. Actually, before I ask anything here, I was just wondering, randomly, now that you've been through our medical system, how hair, it's hard to find good information. What do you think of healthcare? I know, kind of random, but just curious.
Well, I've been dealing with the healthcare system for a long time, unfortunately. My mother was ill like over 20 years ago, and she passed away. So I know what it's like, and I know how important it is to be an advocate. You have to be an advocate for anyone who is put into the hospital. It's insane. Yeah. It's absolutely insane what could be happening. Now, let me ask you a question. For some reason, my computer just I lost my connection. Are you guys able to hear me and see me online right now?
I can hear you over the phone.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I guess the guys will let me know. But yeah, I don't. Sadly, this is what it is. I don't really think we have a healthcare system. I think we have more of a disease management system, and it's extremely flawed, and it's only getting worse. Unfortunately, and this may not be something that a lot of people want to hear. But the truth is, I think Obamacare is just already making things so much more difficult. I was with my father in a hospital, with my father in a hospice, and if I wasn't there helping to manage his care, he would have died, in my view, before his body really gave out. There were two specific instances. One instance when a doctor, this guy was on lorazepam, which is a benzodiazepam, for a long time for anxiety. One of the doctors in this team, a young woman, basically cut it out of his daily medication. I'm like, what's going on? This guy's going to have a seizure. He can end up just dropping dead of a heart attack. How can you just drop somebody from that drug? Oh, we didn't realize that he's been on it for such a long period of time. I'm like, well, how long does it take before you start going through withdrawals? And she's like, well, I'm going to have to look that up. I'm like, you're an effing doctor. And then another instance, which I'm not going to get into the particulars, but I think that was a really good question. And the truth is, it is insane out there. And God forbid if you ever have to go into a hospital, or if a loved one ever needs real medical care, you got to make sure that you're with them, or somebody that knows what they're doing and is willing to ask questions.
Yeah, my grandma shared your experience. I mean, it was almost lucky that my mom was out of work at the time and then relocating to a different job. It was almost the same thing. That's what she said. If she wasn't there, I mean, basically my grandma would be gone right now, where she would have to do all the research and cross-reference and everything. And it's like, shouldn't this be the doctor's job technically? But she was the one, she's just a regular person like us, and she was trying to, stay up to whatever, 12 o'clock at night researching some particular disease or symptom or whatever.
Well, because the truth is, these doctors, I hate to say it, in general, most doctors really suck at what they do, and especially the young ones. The people that are working in the hospitals who are part of these teams. Listen, my dad was in Sloan Kettering in New York, which is supposed to be one of the best facilities in the world for what he was dealing with. It was like dealing with children. they would get very defensive if you were to ask them questions. They really believe that they were meant to be put on a pedestal. And these are young doctors. Now, some of the older guys, the guys that are in their 40s and 50s, they kind of already know, they've been through the mill. They know how to handle patients and patients' families a little bit better. They're a little bit more respectful, and they really take what you have to say seriously and take it into consideration. But I dealt with this one woman, and it was just, and I told her, and I actually complained to her supervisor or her the elder team person, and he thanked me. He goes, I can kind of tell what was happening, and you really took control of that situation. So anyway, that's the story. Let's go on to your questions. What's up?
Yeah, sure. I was, of course, being one of the younger guys, wondering about your thoughts on some of the newer treatments, newer news. So I just wanted to rattle off a few, and I was wondering if you heard about one from Israel. It was called Palax. It was on the chat. No, you haven't heard of it?
I have.
Oh, okay.
And I can tell you this, that
yeah,
young guys really have to open their eyes. All you have to really do is look at the way things are being presented online. Look at how certain companies are either pandering to or trying to overutilize message forums. How the information about these, and I'm not just talking about this particular product, how it's being leaked onto the internet. Does it make sense that any of this could actually benefit you?
No, that's true. Like I always thought Negan was kind of bullshit. Even the pictures from the get-go were suspect and shady. The only reason, I don't mean to cut you off, but let me tell you. I mean, one of the things that I said this at the very beginning. I mean, do you really think that the guy is going to cure hair loss is going to be pandering to a message forum? But do you think it's going to be some guy in India who's posting and having arguments online with people on a forum? It's insanity. But you know what? If you don't allow the conversation to continue, then there's a segment of the population, the hair loss community, that will say, well, Kobren's just trying to quell this information so that he can continue to build his evil empire. And then there are those on the other side who say, how can Kobren allow this to go on? How can they allow this misinformation to be put out there? So, I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. All I tell guys, especially young guys, just use your common sense. Anyone who really cures hair loss is going to be on the cover of Time magazine. They're not going to be announcing it on Bald Truth Talk. Well, the reason I thought this guy was a bit more credible than, say, a Negan was I saw that they actually did file a patent, and the person behind this treatment is actually a scientist from it's called like the Technion in Israel, and it's a very well-known university there. So, I mean, he is a scientist. It's like the MIT of Israel.
Right.
So, I mean, he's a scientist. He filed a patent. I don't know. I just thought maybe it's worth kind of looking into, and I don't know. And
I can appreciate that. I really can, and that makes sense. That's logical. That's a good. The process was, correct. However, if you really understand the way the world works and the way medicine works and the way, especially the hair loss industry works, there have been plenty of patents filed by seemingly credible individuals who, may have got a glimpse of something and thought that potentially this could make me some money. So I'm going to rush in there. I'm going to file this patent, even before I know that any of this is going to be really helpful or beneficial. And if in fact I can make this work, then at least I have the patent, because it takes so long to secure that patent. And if if you go back and you look up hair loss patents, credible guys who were like making devices to cut the scalp to kind of like loosen the glia, the membrane between the brain, the scalp and the skull, and things of that nature. I mean, and if you look at their credentials, some of these guys on paper seem to be very credible. So all I can tell you is, based on my experience and based on just, in my view, common sense, anyone who really has the cure for hair loss or is getting closer, they're going to go about things in a different way. That's just the way it is. They're going to try to go through the correct regulatory authorities. It's not about filing patents. Frankly, it's sad, but we're all very desperate. And I understand why you guys are doing this research, and I would have done the exact same thing. And, all of it makes an interesting read. If I take the time to go on the forum sometimes and I read these threads, it's amazing how into it you guys are. I get it. But you got to use common sense.
Yeah. Well.
I don't mean to disappoint you, dude. I don't mean, and you know what? I'd be the first to say, "Holy shit!" I'd be pleasantly surprised, and I would love for these things to come out and to really help people. I think it's highly improbable.
Yeah, but I mean, the counter arguments. At one point, people were saying, "Oh, Wesley, that's bullshit." But yeah, at some point, somebody does bring something new. Somebody does bring an innovation, and it is maybe a game changer. So you can't.
Well, that makes sense. But this is a basically a relatively simple concept and procedure. Yeah. This is a surgical procedure, an actual mechanical procedure.
Right.
So he's not trying to grow hair. He's just trying to find a different way to move hair without causing an exterior scar. That's easy to wrap your head around. And, once you see it being done, you realize, wait a second, he's doing it. Now, is he going to be able to do it on a bigger scale, where it's going to be a treatment that's going to really benefit hair transplant patients in the long run? I think that he will. I think he's going to be able to eventually start doing 1,500 graft cases and then eventually 3,000 graft cases. And it could benefit a lot of people, but it's just another mechanical way to move hair from one place to another, except this is being done from underneath the scalp. But I get your point, man. You got to have an open mind, and I do. Even with Cohen Go. Listen, 15 years ago, I was telling people, look, he hasn't proved anything. He's talking about hair cloning. He's making all these bold claims. And I talked about it on the radio show back in 1999. And people would ask me about it. I'm like, listen, at this point, there's really nothing to talk about, but I have an open mind. And then when things started to resurface again, I had him on the show. Why not? Why not talk it out? Let people find out for themselves. There's a reason why I didn't recommend him. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's a bad guy or that I think that he's trying to rip people off or anything like that. I think he believes in his technique, and there is some merit to, having a less scarring hair transplant technique. But the truth is, I think there's a major trade-off for that. A lot of the guys that are getting this technique are not getting the robust, results that you can get from a more traditional technique.
Yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, it seemed like a few years ago, these companies came onto the scene, Histogen, Follicle, Replicel. People were more excited. It seems like there are more things in the pipe a year or two ago than now. Now they seem to be dropping like flies.
But they still are. They still are in the game. The thing is, for a couple of reasons. One main reason, a lot of these guys don't even want to discuss it online anymore. They gave us the opportunity to get the information first. They gave me the opportunity to get it out to you guys. But sadly, these companies and the individuals attached to these companies don't want to be faced with all the bullshit that they're getting on the online forums. And frankly, guys are out there, they're bashing, doctors who are associated with these these technologies. And then their names are being, dragged through the mud online. It's bad for their own practices. These guys contact me. They're like, listen, why should we even do this? When it comes out, it comes out.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's true. I guess, they don't even need to. It'll sell itself. They don't have as much to gain. We're just frustrated, I think, because we see things that are actually here on the ground, maybe working for people, and then they're like, it's going to be 5 years before it's realistically out, or 7 years, and it's like, that's an eternity from now.
Of course it is. Sucks. It sucks. But the thing is, the guys who are online, they're on there every day battling it out and talking about things and discussing things and getting disappointed and then getting their hopes up, and, this meeting and that meeting's happening. I've been in this field for a long time. Very little changes over the years, and things change incrementally. That's just the way that it is. So an incredible finding today that's very exciting, that's going to be all over the news, may not prove to provide a new viable option for another decade. That's just the way that it is. Now, the reason I was really interested and I wanted to speak to Dr. Wesley and get the information out there about, his new hair transplant technique is that this could be something that's viable relatively quickly, within 2 years. Guys who may never have considered having surgical hair restoration are going to feel more comfortable having it. And then they could have a few more years of life with hair. And, to me, it really can be a game changer. And I also think that, Replacel has the potential still to be a game changer, but everyone's so disappointed with the initial results. This is just the way things work, man. And all of a sudden they're saying, why do you think I haven't had anybody from Replacel on the air for a year? Because they don't want to hear the bullshit anymore. They're like, we gave you this information. We want to get it out to the public. We want to get it out to your listeners and to your readers, but they give us such grief. Why should we even do it?
Right.
So you have any other questions, man?
I was just gonna ask you about CB, the new Chinese finding that Desmond posted was now the end is near, or we're at it. Apparently now Chinese researchers can create a dermal papilla cell. So I was going to ask about CB and that, and then I had a question about inflammation, but that was it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I haven't read what Desmond wrote, and I haven't really been reading the forums recently, but I do know that, yes, I mean, the Chinese are moving forward for sure. Now, as far as the end being near, you guys have to understand that it doesn't mean the end is near. Just because they're able to create these cells does not mean that they're going to be able to put this into practice as far as creating a viable option for people to regain their hair in a year's time.
Right.
It may take them 2 decades. It may take them a year and a half. We just don't know. So yeah, it's all interesting to stay. It's important to stay up on this, but you guys can't put your lives on hold, waiting for these for these treatments to come to fruition, because your lives are just going to pass you by.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry to say it, man. I hate to see you guys suffer like this when, we know it works. Okay, the treatments don't work for everybody, but we know what works. This is what we have to work with right now. We have surgical hair restoration. We have prosthetics like hair pieces. We have finasteride, dutasteride, minoxidil. You have maybe Latisse. Really, in my view, this is what you have to work with. If you can't deal with it, if it's not working for you, then you just have to move on.
Yeah, well, I think given that it's 2014, it's kind of a shitty reality, in my opinion.
It is and how old are you, by the way?
28.
Okay,
no.
So what's your particular hair loss situation?
I would say I'm maybe Norwood 5-ish, almost a Norwood 6. It's very thin, even though I have maybe like an outline of a Norwood 3 or something.
All right. And what have you used to try to treat yourself?
On and off, Finasteride, and then I've been trying to order CB 030
right.
0301 online, which in theory could have a Propecia-like effect without any of the side effects.
Right, and I've read all about it, and I actually did a radio documentary for the BBC, and the presenter, that's what they call themselves in the UK, was fascinated by Bald Truth Talk forums and the fact that you guys, and I don't know if you heard this interview, you guys really are, maybe you guys are the real pioneers as far as you're willing to put yourselves out there and get these gray market treatments and experiment.
Yeah.
And then go out there publicly and talk about your experience. There's something to be said for that. So, who am I to say, you guys are insane to do this? Would I do it personally? No. However, I did take finasteride before it was approved for hair loss, and when every doctor said I was out of my mind. So, I mean, who knows how adventurous I would be if I was 24 again and I hadn't been able to treat my hair loss successfully. So,
most of it doesn't work, but I mean, those of us who are kind of like the radicals in the underworld, the FDA takes ours way too slow for us. So that's why we do what we do.
And you know what? I respect you for it. I have to provide my opinion, and I try to provide a balanced opinion, and that's not always greeted so well as by
you're right. To tell you the truth, really the evidence, the vast majority of things people try ultimately, even though they say it's great in theory, pictures at the end of the day, most people don't really get results from all of the new treatments, and there's 20 of them.
Yeah.
But I had one. I didn't mean to take up someone's time. I actually had one last personal question. I was wondering about inflammation, and I'm sure people have asked about this a lot over the years. But when I look at my scalp itself, it's actually reddish, and of course I'm just a layman. But I mean, and I do have this itch sometimes, and I know that's common. And I feel like inflammation is somehow a part of it. And I don't know if people have done something to try to address the inflammation of hair loss, or how it's connected, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's pretty common. Now, do you have any pain associated, with your inflammation? Do you have sometimes you feel like your hair hurts?
Like sometimes it's like an itch, and I'm always like scratching it, and it's like really annoying. And then sometimes when I do take Propecia, it dies down a little bit.
Well, first of all, let me ask you this: why? Okay, you've taken Propecia. Why have you gone on and off? Have you had side effects?
Yeah, so I've had side effects. So I've tried to limit it.
Well, you know what? Then you're doing the right thing. If you're having adverse side effects, then stay away from it. It sucks that you're one of the guys that are dealing with the adverse side effects. I understand it. Have you tried intermittent therapy or lowering your dosage?
Yeah, that's what I do now. Basically, I take half of it, and I try to take it. Go ahead.
And when you're on half of it, do you have side effects?
Yeah, I think there's some. I think it could be subjective, but I do think there are some side effects, and I think that I have such a strong genetic predisposition to hair loss that I think for me the best Propecia that you're going to do anyway is slow it down. It's not even going to halt it, I don't think.
Well, and that's fair. And for a lot of guys, it just doesn't work out well. It's just whether they have side effects or not. Some guys they may experience some success with it, and it's limited success. And then there are guys who can be on it for a decade and they still benefit from it. To get to the inflammation question again, let me preface this by saying I'm not a physician. There is definitely a strong correlation between male pattern baldness and inflammatory effects of the scalp. So there's a lot.
If I even look at my scalp in the mirror closely, like it's reddish, like the skin surrounding my hair, it's you could tell, like even just to my eye, it looks somewhat. It's red. It's probably inflamed. So
well, this is going to sound like hocus pocus to you. It may or may not, but I'm a firm believer in diet when it comes to kind of changing your body chemistry. And, now there is some significant evidence showing that being more alkaline, being less acidic, can really help with a lot of inflammatory disorders, including, acne rosacea and, psoriasis and other, eczema and other inflammatory issues. Your inflammatory issue may seem minor compared to those issues, but that minor inflammation of your scalp could be causing you to, experience more hair loss for sure. And I think by reversing that, you can just, first of all, you're going to have a better daily experience anyway, without having to deal with the itch, without having to deal with the redness of your scalp. So I would look into maybe focusing on your diet. I don't know what your diet is like, but becoming a little bit more alkaline or alkaline, and eating less red meat, or eating more fruits and vegetables, and just kind of watching your alkalinity. And there are ways to do that. You can look it up online. Big believer in that, and I think that could really help with the inflammatory issues. There is a big connection. There's no doubt in my mind. When I wrote the Bald Truth, I started writing it in '96. I wrote a chapter on diet and hair loss, and we talked about inflammation. I was a big believer in the zone diet back then, but it does relate to what you're talking about. There's no doubt when your scalp is in better condition, when you're not dealing with certain inflammatory effects and skin conditions, and even minor inflammatory issues like you're talking about, you'd be surprised you may end up growing a little bit more hair once you change your diet. Now, it may not be significant, but at the very least, you're not going to be itching.
Okay.
You know?
All right, thanks. Yeah, no, thanks for the advice.
Yeah. Listen, dude, I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you, listen, this is what you got to do. You're going to grow your hair back, or you're on the right track. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is, if you can deal with it somehow, if you can learn to wean yourself away from the forums, do it. Try to live your life. Wean yourself away from it if you can.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm more of like a radical like Joe, so it might be harder, but yeah.
Well, listen, dude, I wish you the best of luck. I really do, and I'm sorry that I'm not more positive about some of the things that you're trying, but who knows? Maybe you'll surprise me.
No, you keep it real. All right, thanks.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right. Jesus, 5 minutes over. Listen, guys, I got to go. And I want to thank you guys for the great welcome back to the broadcast. I am considering doing the show again on a weekly basis. I guess you'll find out next week if I decide to do that. I want to thank Andrew Zarian and the guys from Queens Network for helping to produce the show and for distributing the broadcast all over the internet. You can check them out at gfqnetwork.com if you're watching us through the Bald Truth. Check out some of their other shows. And I actually do air all of their programs through the Bald Truth website. Because, listen, what are you going to watch me 24 hours a day? So if you're on the Bald Truth website, you know, searching around, looking at some of my archive broadcasts, you can also catch some of GFQ's live broadcasts during your time on the site. I want to thank you guys again. Don't know where Joe from Staten Island is, but I want to thank you for a busy show. And again, thank all of you guys who took the time to contact me these last 3 months to see how I was doing. It really meant a lot. Until next time, I want all of you to be strong, God bless, and thanks so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.